My mother-in-law tried to destroy my marriage. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who could actually hate someone's guts and yet feel like I have to smile in front of them every single day. But there I was, 2 months into my marriage, sitting in my own living room, staring at the woman who was supposed to be my husband's mother and realizing she was the real nightmare. From the moment I met her, I felt it. That subtle, cold judgment in her eyes, the way she would accidentally brush her hand against mine with a patronizing smirk whenever I poured a cup of coffee, or how she had this uncanny ability to make every compliment sound like an insult. At first, I chalked it up to nerves. Maybe she was just protective of her son, but I should have known better. It all started on our wedding day. Sparked, or so I thought. The flowers, the music, the laughter, even the chaos of last-minute seating changes. It all felt like a dream. That is, until I noticed her whispering something to my husband while looking at me like she'd caught me doing something unforgivable. My husband waved it off, smiling, completely oblivious. I, however, felt a shiver down my spine. The first real confrontation happened during what she called our first official family dinner. I had spent the entire morning preparing my mother-in-law's favorite dishes. She had mentioned once that she liked homemade lasagna, and I figured what better way to impress her than food. I spent hours in the kitchen kneading, chopping, simmering. Everything smelled perfect. I even had the table set just like she liked, with the silverware polished and candles lit. I opened the front door with a proud smile, expecting at least a polite thank you, or maybe even a compliment. Instead, she walked in, sniffed the air, and said, "Tehihim, interesting choice. I usually like my lasagna with more flavor." I froze. I thought you liked it," this stammered. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, everyone has different tastes, dear. But I guess we'll see how your husband likes it." Her words weren't just rude. They were calculated, like she had rehearsed them to make me feel small. My husband didn't say anything. He just smiled awkwardly, trying to diffuse the tension, but the damage was done. And that's when I realized it. This wasn't just casual criticism. This was the beginning of a war, one that I hadn't signed up for, but was about to fight every day for the rest of my marriage. Over the next few weeks, it became worse. She started showing up unannounced, criticizing my cooking, my home decor, even the way I laughed. She made little comments about my weight, my family, my job, always framed as helpful advice, but it was anything but helpful. Then came the lies. I won't forget the day she told my husband I had been secretly spending money from our joint account on stupid things. I hadn't touched a dime of it. My husband, though, was torn. He wanted to believe his mother. Because who wouldn't? Mothers rarely lie about this sort of thing, right? But deep down, a part of him knew her history with manipulation, yet he hesitated. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. One evening, I came home from work early to find her in my living room, sitting on my couch like she owned it, scrolling through my phone while I stood frozen in the doorway. "Don't mind me, dear," she said sweetly, looking up. "I just wanted to see what kind of messages you've been sending your friends. You know, make sure you're not hiding anything from your husband." That was the moment I realized something terrifying. She wasn't just trying to be part of our lives, she was trying to control them. And the worst part, my husband still didn't see it. Not yet. But I had to be careful. One wrong move, and I could lose everything. My husband, my sanity, maybe even my home. And trust me, when a mother-in-law decides she wants to destroy your life, she doesn't stop at words. She waits, plans, and then strikes when you least expect it. I wanted to scream, to run, to grab my husband and tell him everything, but I didn't. I had to play it smart. I had to survive. And that's when I started noticing the little signs, the patterns, the quiet manipulations that most people miss until it's too late. She was good, too subtle, and she wasn't going anywhere. That night, I lay in bed next to my husband, my mind racing with what I should do next. When I heard the soft click of my bedroom door, my heart stopped. I turned to see her standing there, just inches from my face, smiling like she had all the time in the world. "Sweet dreams, dear," she whispered. "Sleep tight, you're going to need it." And I realized the war had officially begun. She was no longer hiding her intentions, and the first real attack was yet to come. But what would she do next? And could I even fight back without losing everything? I woke up the next morning with a knot in my stomach, the memory of her whisper still echoing in my mind. It was one thing to tolerate passive, aggressive comments or small digs, but it was another thing entirely when someone made it clear they were out to destroy you. I couldn't ignore it anymore, but I had to play it smart. I decided to act like nothing had happened, like her sweet dreams warning hadn't rattled me. I smiled at my husband over breakfast, poured his coffee, and tried to focus on our conversation about mundane things. Work, bills, plans for the weekend, anything to keep the tension at bay. It didn't last long. Later that day, I got a call from my best friend, Mia. She sounded panicked. Did your husband tell you about what his mom did yesterday?" she asked, voice trembling. I frowned. "No, what happened?" "Okay, so I saw her at the boutique you love," Mia continued. "And she was talking to the manager. She said she wanted to check on your spending habits and that she didn't trust you with his credit card. She even asked them to keep an eye on you." My stomach dropped. That wasn't just invasive. That was controlling. She was going behind my back, trying to turn everyone against me, including people I had trusted for years. I felt my hands tremble as I hung up the phone. How long had she been planning this? How many people had she already spoken to? And more importantly, how could she get away with it? That evening, I confronted my husband. I tried to stay calm, lost, but the anger was bubbling just under the surface. Did she really talk to that boutique about me?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He looked uneasy. "Yeah, she mentioned something, but it's fine. Right? I mean, she just wanted to make sure you weren't overspending. That's normal, isn't it?" "Normal," I echoed, my voice sharp. "Husband, she went to a store and asked them to spy on me. She went behind my back, violated my privacy, and is actively trying to make me look bad to everyone. That's not normal. That's manipulation. He hesitated. I could see it in his eyes. Part of him wanted to believe me. Part of him wanted to believe his mother, and that hesitation was all she needed. Maybe you're overreacting, he said softly. I wanted to scream. Overreacting? Are you kidding me? She's trying to ruin us, and you're telling me I'm overreacting. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I could tell he didn't have an answer, and honestly, that scared me even more. Because if he couldn't see it, I was on my own. The next few days were a blur. She didn't hide her presence anymore. Every time I cooked, she critiqued. Every time I cleaned, she found something wrong. And every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, she somehow twisted the story so that I looked unreasonable, emotional, even paranoid. Then came the first big sabotage. It started with a simple text message from her. She sent it to my husband while I was at work. I just don't think your wife is right for you. I mean, she's sweet and all, but I see the way she spends your money, the way she talks to your friends. Are you sure she's trustworthy? Just think about it. I didn't see it until later, but the damage was immediate. When I got home that evening, I noticed a subtle shift in my husband's behavior. He was quieter, more distant, his eyes avoiding mine. And then, almost casually, he said, maybe your mother has a point. I don't know if you're really handling our money responsibly. My heart sank. My own husband questioning me because of lies. I am handling it responsibly, I shouted, unable to hold back. Do you even hear yourself? She's manipulating you, using every chance she gets to turn you against me. He looked torn. I don't know. Maybe I'm just stressed. Maybe I need to think about it. Think about it? Think about what? That my mother-in-law was trying to ruin our marriage, or that I was somehow the problem. I felt panic rise in my chest. I realized in that moment just how dangerous she was, not just as a meddling mother-in-law, but as someone who could destroy the foundation of my marriage without lifting a finger. I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. I started keeping a journal, writing down every conversation, every text, every suspicious comment. I even started recording moments when she tried to manipulate situations carefully, so I could protect myself if things got worse, and they would get worse, because that weekend, she pulled her first real attack. My husband and I had planned a small, intimate dinner at home, just the two of us. Nothing fancy, just some candles, music, and homemade food. But when I came home, I found her there, sitting at the dining table, smiling. Oh, I just thought I'd join you, she said. Is that okay? My blood ran cold. I opened my mouth to protest, but before I could, she pulled a little slip of paper from her purse. I wanted to make sure your husband knew I was here to protect him, she said, and she handed him the note. I didn't see the note's contents, but I could see his expression change instantly. Confusion, doubt, and worst of all, fear. She was playing a game, and I realized for the first time that this wasn't just about her disliking me. This was about control. Every word, every action, every sly smile was calculated to make me feel powerless. And I was powerless, at least for now. That night, after she left, I discovered something terrifying in our bedroom, a message on my husband's phone that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just a lie, it was a threat, and it was from her. That night, I couldn't sleep. The moment my mother-in-law left, I had grabbed my husband's phone under the pretense of checking something, and what I saw made my stomach drop to my feet. There it was, a message from her, glowing on the screen like a warning siren. If you don't start listening to me, everything you've built with her will fall apart. Just remember, I've protected you before, and I can ruin you if I want. I stared at it, disbelief mixed with rage, the audacity, the manipulation. She wasn't hiding it anymore. She was openly threatening my marriage, and my husband, he hadn't even told me. He was too caught in the whirlwind of guilt and doubt she'd sown in his mind over the last few weeks. I confronted him immediately. Why didn't you tell me about this? I demanded, my voice shaking. He avoided my eyes. I didn't want to upset you. I thought maybe I was overreacting. I snapped. Do you have any idea what she just did? She threatened our marriage, our entire life together. And you just stayed silent. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know what to do, okay? She's my mom, and I feel like I'm stuck in the middle. I love you, but I don't want to hurt her feelings. That was it, that moment. That one sentence cemented my resolve. I realized something frightening. If I didn't act, no one else would. My husband couldn't protect me. He was too blinded by loyalty, by the guilt his mother expertly manipulated. The next day, I started strategizing. I couldn't let her win. But first, I had to understand her tactics. She was good at planting seeds of doubt, at twisting simple situations into crises. I started documenting everything, keeping track of every lie, every sly comment, every manipulation. I needed evidence, not just for my sanity, but for the survival of my marriage. And then came the first real, public humiliation. It was a Sunday brunch at my in-laws' house. I should have known something was wrong when my husband hesitated before leaving, fidgeting like he was already nervous. His mother greeted me with that fake sweetness, all smiles and hugs, and I knew instantly this was a setup. The brunch started normally enough. Conversation flowed, people laughed, but then she subtly shifted the focus. So, tell everyone how much you're spending on your little home renovation project, she said, looking directly at my husband. I froze. I hadn't told anyone the details yet. It was still a private project. Something I had planned with my husband. How could she have known? I tried to laugh it off. Oh, it's nothing fancy, just some updates. You know, basic stuff? She leaned closer, lowering her voice so only my husband could hear. I just hope she's not overextending herself or your finances. I could feel the eyes on me judging, waiting for me to slip up. My face burned with humiliation. I could see my husband shifting uncomfortably in his seat, caught between me and his mother. And then the final blow, she whispered something to him, and his expression changed completely. He nodded slowly, the tiniest hint of doubt creeping into his eyes. After brunch, I confronted him privately. Why are you letting her manipulate you like this? I demanded. We are supposed to be partners. Why are you letting her sabotage everything we've built? He looked torn between the woman who had raised him and the woman he had promised to love for life. I just don't want to cause drama, he said quietly. Drama? I repeated, my voice rising. This isn't drama. This is my life, our life, and she's trying to destroy it. He sighed, defeated. And I realized something terrifying. She had him exactly where she wanted. He was hesitant, confused, questioning himself, and the moment I realized that, I understood the full extent of her plan. It wasn't just about me. It was about control. She didn't want a daughter-in-law. She wanted an obedient subject, someone she could mold, manipulate, and ultimately break if necessary. And the frightening thing, she was good at it. Too good. The next day, I discovered another layer of her manipulations. I found a series of emails she had sent to our friends filled with subtle lies about me, designed to make me look irresponsible, untrustworthy, and selfish. Friends I had known for years were suddenly hesitant, unsure. Some even started avoiding me. That's when it hit me, this was no longer just about my marriage. This was about isolating me, cutting off my support system, and leaving me vulnerable to her influence. And just when I thought I had seen the worst, I got a call from my husband's sister. Her voice was low, urgent. You need to be careful. Mom, she's planning something. I don't know what, but she's not stopping. You need to watch your back. My heart raced. Planning something. What could she possibly do next? That night, I lay awake, listening to the house settle around me. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the curtains made my skin crawl. I knew she was out there, scheming, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. And deep down, I knew it wasn't going to be small this time. A week later, my mother-in-law made her move, and it wasn't just words. Something in my house went missing, something that could ruin my reputation completely if it fell into the wrong hands. And the moment I realized what had happened, I knew she had crossed a line I might never recover from. The note under our door was like a punch to the gut. I read it over and over, my hands trembling. This isn't over. There was no mistaking it. She wasn't bluffing. Every manipulation, every subtle dig, every little sabotage had been leading up to this. She wanted total control, not just over my husband, not just over our marriage, but over me. I felt panic rising, but I couldn't let it paralyze me. I had to act carefully, strategically. And I had to protect my husband too, because the sad truth was he was still her puppet. At least partially. That week, I started documenting everything more aggressively. Every conversation, every suspicious call, every weird visit, every little text. I even started recording our interactions at home, not because I trusted my husband to stand with me, but because I needed proof. Evidence that could protect me if things spiraled out of control. But evidence alone wasn't enough. She was too smart, too careful. She never left fingerprints. She never admitted anything in writing. She was a ghost in the background, pulling strings, planting doubts, isolating me from everyone I trusted. And then the psychological warfare began. It started subtly. Notes left in our home. You're not good enough. He deserves better than you. All in handwriting that mimicked my own. Phone calls from unknown numbers with no one on the other end. My husband came home one night and casually said, maybe you should be more careful with what you say around friends. You never know who's listening. I froze. That was her work. She had twisted him. She had made him question me. And every day, I felt myself shrinking, my confidence eroding under the weight of constant doubt and fear. Then came the ultimate setup, one I'll never forget. My mother-in-law invited my husband's entire extended family over for dinner without telling me. She made it seem innocent, like she wanted to welcome me into the family. But it was a trap. When I arrived, the house was buzzing with people. She greeted me with that sweet, disarming smile that hit 1,000 knives. And then she started, slowly, carefully, planting doubts and lies in front of everyone. I just don't know how she manages the household. I mean, last week she nearly burned the kitchen down, and she left the oven on all day. She said casually, her voice light, her eyes watching me for any reaction. I wanted to scream to defend myself, but I couldn't. I knew any outburst would play right into her hands, so I stayed silent, my heart hammering, while the family whispered and exchanged glances, some of them nodding as if confirming her story. And then the Paya CDRA assistants. She pulled my husband aside in the middle of dinner and whispered something in his ear. I couldn't hear it, but the look on his face said it all: confusion, doubt, hesitation, and worst of all, fear. After dinner, when everyone left, I finally confronted him. What did she say to you? I demanded. He avoided my gaze. It's nothing, I guess. Just things about how we manage things, about how you handle stress. Things she made up. I shouted. She's lying to you. She's manipulating everyone, myself. You're your family! Don't you see what she's doing? He rubbed his face, looking exhausted. I just don't know anymore. Maybe she has a point about some things. I felt my stomach drop. The woman I had trusted, the man I had married, was slipping away under the influence of his own mother, and she knew exactly how to push him, where to plant doubt, when to stay silent, and how to turn every moment into a battle I wasn't fully prepared to fight. That night, I sat alone in our dark living room, thinking I had two choices: collapse under the pressure, let her win, and lose my husband and my life, or fight back in a way she wouldn't expect. I started planning. Every manipulation, every lie, every subtle attack she had ever done became data. Patterns emerged, weak points, opportunities. If she thought she could destroy me, she had another thing coming. And then I realized something terrifying to win. I couldn't just defend myself. I had to go on the offensive. But to do that, I had to be smarter, faster, and more strategic than she ever imagined. I didn't know how yet, but one thing was certain. This war was far from over, and the next move she made would force me to make a choice that could change everything. The very next morning, I discovered something in our home that confirmed my worst fears. She had crossed a line that no one should ever cross. And it wasn't just about manipulation anymore. It was about power, control, and a threat that could destroy everything I loved. The morning I discovered what she had done, my heart stopped. My husband's car keys, his wallet, even my own important documents. Everything was missing from the house. At first, I thought it was a burglary, but deep down, I knew only one person could pull this off so methodically, so coldly. My mother-in-law. I felt a mix of anger, fear, and determination. This wasn't just manipulation anymore, it was a direct attack. She wasn't just trying to control me. She was trying to destroy our lives completely. I called my husband immediately. "Where are your things?" And my documents, I demanded. He looked confused, almost paralyzed. I don't know. Maybe she took them. But why would she? She's threatening us. I interrupted, my voice shaking. Do you see what she's doing? This isn't a game anymore. She's crossed every line. I knew I couldn't rely on him to act. He was too torn, too influenced by her years of subtle manipulation. If I wanted to save my marriage, my career, my life, I had to act myself. I spent the next few hours retracing her steps. Phone records, neighbors, small details I had overlooked. And then it hit me. She had left a trace, just one small slip up that only someone paying attention could notice. I called her out. I didn't know if she would admit it, but I had to try. "Why did you take our things?" I demanded over the phone. To my voice shaking with controlled anger. There was a pause, and then that chilling smile in her voice. "I'm just helping you both learn. Sometimes lessons are easier when you can't rely on material things." I hung up. Lessons? This wasn't a lesson. This was a war, and I was ready to fight. That evening, I confronted my husband one more time. I laid everything out, her lies, her manipulations, the threats, the theft. I showed him the patterns, the evidence, the recordings, the documentation I had kept. At first, he hesitated, but then something shifted. He looked at me, not with doubt, not with fear, but with realization. He saw the truth. He saw how deeply his mother had been undermining us. I had no idea, he whispered. I thought I was just being cautious. I didn't see how far she'd go. "It's not too late," I said firmly. "But we need to act now." Together, we devised a plan. We involved the authorities, filed proper reports about the theft, and presented all the evidence we had gathered over months of manipulation. The shock on my mother-in-law's face when confronted with the proof was something I'll never forget. No smile, no patronizing tone, just pure disbelief. And then my husband did something that made me realize we could survive this. He finally set boundaries, firm, unbreakable boundaries. No more unannounced visits, no more lies, no more manipulation. And for the first time in months, I felt free. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of doubt, arguments, and lingering fear. But together, we rebuilt our lives. My mother had one last subtle attempt to regain control, but we were prepared. Every move she made was countered. Every whisper, every suggestion, every manipulation, neutralized. In the end, what I realized is this: people like her thrive on fear and doubt. But when you see them clearly, when you document, when you protect yourself, and when you stand together with the people you love, you can fight back. Our marriage survived because we learned to communicate, to trust, and to defend our lives from the toxic forces trying to destroy them. And my mother-in-law, she's still around, of course, but she no longer has power over us. I walk into my home now without fear. I speak freely, laugh freely, and love freely. And every time I see that smirk of hers in the background, I remember something important. You can't control someone who refuses to be controlled. This war taught me more than I ever wanted to learn, but it also taught me resilience, strategy, and the value of trust. And in the end, I got the last laugh. Some people think a mother-in-law's influence is harmless, just minor interference. But sometimes behind the polite smile, there's a calculated force ready to destroy everything you love. The key is to recognize it, prepare, and stand firm. And sometimes you have to fight smart to survive.